Okay, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have a very cool diver for you from the micro brand Armida. So a little bit about Armida. They were established in 2011 and they are out of Hong Kong. They're of course one of the brands that come out of the factory full swing in Hong Kong, which comes out with really great quality micro brands. I won't name them all, but I'd say probably one of the nearest comparables would be Helsin. So, as you guys know, they put out watches. Some of them are very expensive and some of them are more affordable. But kind of what they carry over as a commonality is you're going to get very nice finishing. So fit and finish is very nice. You know, of course, normally what they're building is intended to be a little bit overbuilt and a little bit more simplistic, but you know, definitely high quality and to say the least. So this watch is of course a dive watch. So some kind of key common design language things and features is you're going to be looking for something that's water resistant, you know, it has a screw down crown, something tough, legible, dive time bezel, and if you do have a bracelet, it's always nice to have a nice diver's extension. So a little bit about this particular model. It is the Armida A1 42 millimeters in stainless steel. It's essentially a downsized version of the original 45 millimeter Armida A1 kind of flagship diver from when the brand was first released. So the retail price on this is going to be $349 on the rubber strap and $419 on the stainless steel. The stainless steel bracelet from the factory I think is a really great value considering the slight markup over the rubber. And of course it still comes with a rubber bracelet. I actually bought this model on the rubber strap. And I actually put it on an aftermarket bracelet. This is a strap code Hexed Oyster bracelet. And it also has a ratcheting clasp and everything. So I think it was a great fit. I think the design language is still very similar to the OEM. So it's going to give you, watching this video, still give you a good idea. For me though, I do prefer the tapering bracelet. It tapers down from 22 to 18 millimeters, which is just makes for a more of a sleek profile. And I think it kind of follows the lines of the case because as you'll see from the video, the case is going to wear a little bit smaller. It wears very similar to a Seiko SKX. So, and I prefer the SKX with a tapering bracelet as well. So just something to keep in mind if you're watching this and thinking, hey, that doesn't look like the bracelet I saw in the picture. It's because it's not. It is from strap code. So without further ado, let's go ahead and zoom out a bit and get into some of these specs. All right, so the Armida A1 42 millimeters, of course, 42 millimeters across in diameter. It has a 15.2 millimeter height, which I think it actually wears really well. It is made out of 316L surgical grade stainless steel, which is very nice. The crystal is 2.8 millimeters thick. It's a double domed with inner AR coating. So one of the nice things about this particular watch is, you know, that dial is, it's the crystal, although it's domed, you know, when it doesn't have a direct reflection on it, I mean, you feel like you can just reach right into that and touch that dial there. So really, really highly legible, great execution as far as that goes. Now for the bezel, you have 120 clicks, unidirectional, great action, really snappy. I'd say it's somewhere in between the action of, let's say, my SKX and my Oris Aquis. So there's a certain crispness, but it's also a little bit smoother, I'd say. So, you know, the SKX being more of a smooth rotating 120 clicks with the Oris Aquis being more of a pronounced, solid, you know, very snappy click. This is somewhere in between there, which I like. I mean, it's really great action. So let's just go around one more time with this. Great tactile feeling, even with the gloves. I get a great grip on this bezel. Very functional and handsome as far as that goes. As far as the crown goes, it is a signed screw down crown. You know, very chunky and bold, really nicely finished, as you can see. Really no complaints in that department. So the movement is the Seiko Instruments NH35A. It's hacking and hand windable. It has a 3 Hertz beat rate, which is nice. So it's going to beat at about 6 ticks per second versus kind of the more standard 8 ticks that you'll find in a lot of Swiss pieces. The case back is solid and etched. Very simple etchings on there. Let me just open up the clasp to get a better look. Very simple etching, you know, nothing to write home about, but well, really well executed. I'll give them that. And it actually does feel very comfortable against the wrist, which is nice. Okay, so the dial, let's get into the dial and hand detail here. So as you can see, it has a, get to focus, it has a really, really nicely executed kind of matte satin textured dial. The indices are printed. It has the date right there at about the 4.5. As you can see, it's a little dark, so it's kind of hard to catch it. So let me pull it back, maybe get in the light without catching a reflection. You can see it there, which is nice because it doesn't interrupt the indices. So when this glows, it's still very nice and symmetrical, and you're not going to miss out on an indice just because you know, they wanted to shoehorn a date in there. So it's a really nice feature. So the hands are painted white. It uses C3 Swiss Super Luminova, which is extremely bright, pretty much the brightest in the Super Luminova spectrum, as you're going to see once we get to the Lume shots. As far as the bracelet goes, you know, this is the strap code Hexed Oyster, which is being featured for this review, but it pretty much has the same specs on the OEM bracelet. The only difference is going to be that the OEM is non-tapering and this actually does taper. So as you can see, it tapers down from that 22 gradually to an 18, which is nice, especially when you have a chunkier clasp. So it has screw pins, and then great diver's extension, ratcheting, and also, you know, let's say your wrist expands in the heat in the summer, you can give it a click or two and it's going to ride more comfortable for you. And then one of the things about the strap code clasp is that it does have, you know, the nice perlage here on the folding mechanism. All right. And then, of course, the OEM one is actually signed Armida. This one, Armida. This one is sterile. But let's get this on the wrist. Okay, so as you can see, wears really, really nicely on the wrist. I have a 7¼ inch wrist. Let me get my hand down low right here so you can kind of get a resting wristy, because I know up close it's always going to look a little bit big, but trust me, in person the watch definitely does not wear quite as big. It actually, I think, wears almost a little bit small for what you expect when you look at this watch, versus you see it in pictures and then you actually get it in hand. I think you kind of notice that there's a lot of great design that went into making this watch actually ride and wear a little bit smaller. So on the wrist, you know, it's a hefty and very substantial watch. It's a more toolish take on a very classic silhouette. You know, it has a really tall kind of retro modern side profile. It's very wearable, you know, and it's, you know, partly due to that very short lug to lug distance of 46 millimeters. You know, it has a very Seiko-esque case taper on the side. So as you can see, there's little cutouts here where the case actually chamfers off so that when you're bending your wrist, it's not going to be uncomfortable. It's going to actually wear, you know, really nicely, although it is a slightly larger diameter. And I think it really just ties in really, really nicely. You know, I'd say kind of what you're looking at here is kind of a blend between an SKX 007 and like a marathon search and rescue. So the SAR or SAR marathon. So it's really it's really a great looking watch. I mean, I've been interested in this watch for a long time, and I was really happy when they said they were coming out with the 42 millimeter. And I missed kind of the first run. They sold out really quick. So the second run, I definitely was ready to pick one of these up. Really happy that I did. So some of the model variants are, as you know, you can get a, you know, as far as the 42 millimeter stainless steel, you know, there's going to be a black no date model, and then a matte blue no date model, and then a sunbrush no date model. There's also a brass variants of the 42 millimeter, and you're gonna get, you know, kind of a black date and no date dial, and then you're gonna get, you know, sunbrush blue no date, matte green no date, you know, and then there's also the original 45 millimeter A1, which has a lot of other options available as well. So you're gonna find in the 45 millimeter, you're gonna get you know, higher beat movement and a sapphire bezel insert, but other than that, still very similar. Oh, also it's going to be a lot more water resistant. This is, if I didn't mention already, 300 meters water resistant, which is about 1,000 feet. The 45 millimeter A1 is actually like 1,000 meters water resistant. So really cool as far as that goes. So comparable models, you know, you could compare it to, let's say, from the micro brand side, you know, the Helson Shark Diver. From the more mainstream side, you could compare it to, you know, the SRP Turtle Reissue or a modded SKX. So let's actually get a modded SKX out. Of course, my channel famous Artifice Horrorworks SKX Enhanced here, very comparable, and you can actually see the size wise they actually are very similar in profile and everything. I mean, really, I mean, this is, you could almost, I actually have a Seiko mod in the works that actually looks very similar to this, which is funny. But you know, as you can see, it's really just kind of a more toolish take on what Seiko kind of built here. If you're looking at this and you haven't seen this Seiko mod before, go ahead and look in my channel. You'll see a couple other, you'll see a main review for it, and you'll see it kind of making guest appearances as far as comparables in other videos. But this also does have a ratcheting clasp as well, so it is definitely very comparable. Of course, this piece costed a lot more. Oops, I got my glove stuck there. This actually costed a lot more because of course, you know, so many components had to be upgraded and switched out. So, you know, if you are thinking about modding an SKX to be really this tough, kind of tooly, more robust watch, think about picking up the Armida A1 42 because they are definitely very comparable. Really nice pieces all around. So just figured I'd get that in there so you guys could kind of see them side by side. And you know, if you are thinking, if you have an SKX, you know how those wear. This is going to wear pretty much just like an SKX. So that point of reference is there. And now we kind of need to get into the Lume portion. So for the Lume part of this video, I wanted to bring out some other micro brand kind of heavy hitters in the Lume department that you might have seen on my channel before. So we have the Mark & Sons diver here, really outstanding Lume from that video, as you might remember. And then we also have the Borealis, I believe, I forget the name of this particular model. I'll get it in the description at the bottom, but these both have BGW9 and fully lumed bezel inserts, just to kind of give you an idea of how good the lume is on this watch from Armida. I kind of wanted to compare it to a couple other options that it wouldn't just completely blow out of the water, which, I mean, it still might. When you take a look at this, you might consider it still blowing these guys out of the water, but they definitely have very competitive lume, and you know, the lume that these watches have is really nothing to shrug, you know, at. It's really great. I mean, you can see even in this bright light for the studio lights in here, these watches are picking up that lume and just soaking it in. So no, it's a little black light just to make sure these are full charge. So let's go ahead and now take a look at these in the dark. So as you can see, I mean, the A1 is just blasting that kind of initial brightness. It's unrivaled. You know, of course, the BGW9 is still very legible and everything like that, and it looks great. It just doesn't have that really, you know, that pop, you know, that high contrast in the darkness. It just can't really compare. So, you know, I just wanted to kind of get that out there. And you know what? While we're here, let me charge up off camera here this my SKX. And let's do this. Let's pull this off to the side. Let's get my SKX in there to give you an idea how it stacks up against Seiko's Lume Bright. So as you can see, the Seiko is the Lume Bright is really great. I mean, it is extremely bright, especially initially, that initial brightness. But I mean, that C3 Superluminova, I mean, the initial brightness is just, you know, on a whole nother level. So it's just extremely strong. And it's gonna last. You know, I don't want to have this video too long just to show how slowly this fades, but you know, take it from me, this is a watch that is going to shine brightly even when it's barely dark. You're gonna see it's can kind of even be a problem sometimes, right? Because maybe you want the indices to look white and they're gonna be looking green because they're kind of glowing just by being indoors. So that's definitely something to think about. And as you can see, you know, the BGW9, although still very legible, on the far right, it's just in comparison to that C3, which is just beating away. And then, you know, the Seiko's Lume Bright is definitely hanging in there. It looks great. It's almost kind of, I'd say, a healthy median between the, you know, brightness of and the greenness of the C3 versus the kind of more sedate and cool toned, really mellow BGW9. It looks like the Lume Bright's kind of somewhere in between. It kind of has a greenish blue tint. And it kind of has those bright properties, but also those kind of more cool toned properties. So really cool. All right, so you know, on that note, actually let's zoom out a little bit more, and let's get this guy back in here. So you know, as you can see, there are definitely a lot of options. I could have put a bunch of other watches in here, but honestly, they would have been put to shame pretty bad by this lume. So I wanted to kind of make sure that we were comparing it to some of the stronger lumed watches. So, I mean, really, bottom line on this watch, you know, it's so much watch for the money. You know, it's from a very solid niche player, you know, in the dive watch game, from Armida. It's a non-homage, and it's, you know, it's really a great alternative to a Seiko mod. You know, when you start thinking about, you know, what's inside, you know, this has a Miyota 9015 and you know, ceramic and everything like that from Mark & Son's great piece. Get it to focus so you can catch that. Really great option, and tons of bang per buck. Fantastic. But I'd say these other ones here are a little bit more comparable because they have the same movement. Essentially, they're all rocking the NH36. So you know, when you look at it from that standpoint, you're looking at, you know, very similar ways to go, as far as, you know, how to spend your money. A Seiko mod is going to, of course, cost a lot more, but when somebody sees 007, you know, a lot of the times there's a story that goes with it, and it's really nice to kind of connect on that point. And then there's the story of what you did to mod it. So, and it's a very classic silhouette, and it's in-house, right? Although you upgrade the movement, you know, like in this case, I upgraded, you know, had the movement upgraded by Artifice Horrorworks. It's upgrading a Seiko movement, so it's, you know, still in-house, versus these micro brands where it's, you know, they're using a Seiko movement, but you know, they're not Seiko watches, so it doesn't have the same prestige level, but functionally, you know, all the boxes are ticked. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. You know, also, if you like the video, please hit like. It definitely does help these videos kind of get to the top of the search lists, which gets more word out about the channel. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. You know, we have been rolling out a couple, you know, some different things, some more EDC oriented videos as well. So definitely check those out. If you enjoyed any of these divers, definitely take a look through my history. As far as my uploads go, you'll see tons of other great divers featured. So with that said, have a good one, and hey, thanks for watching. All right, bye.